Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name is Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've arrived at our webpage, there are links to our Facebook page, our Boomers General Store, our YouTube channel, many places that our podcast is served. Well, there's one more month of winter left. The first of the year here in northeastern Kansas was probably the severest winter I probably ever witnessed here in the Midwest. It snowed this heavy snow over a foot, and it was mostly water. They always say an inch of rain is equivalent to about a foot of snow. I do believe this foot of snow or whatever was equivalent to about 9 or 10 inches of rain. Things have been melting and thawing out now, but everything is still saturated with water. Water everywhere. My pond is over full, which I like. I enjoy that part. Better to be too full than to be empty or drying out, you know. I've had it before though, during drought, where we lost a lot of water in that pond. Our song of the week is Happy Together, written by Gary Bonner and Alan Gordon. It was recorded by the American rock group The Turtles and released in January of 1967. It peaked on the Billboard Hot 100 chart at number 1. It was the Turtles' only number 1 hit. The Turtles were a group between 1965 and 1970. In 1983, band members Howard Kaylan and Mark Ballman reprised the group, and they're kind of still around. They've had a few health issues and whatever, you know how these old farts are. Good for them though. They're still playing that great Turtles music. If I should call you up, invest a dime. I want to talk about a few of the things I miss from the good old days. Remember the good old days? I think the good old days overall were good. Not everything. I think memory are kind to us and doesn't really remember the bad stuff too much. It's probably a defense mechanism that's wired into us. That's okay with me. I'd rather have warm thoughts. So let's go over a few of these things and see where we go with this. Checking the oil every day in my vehicle, my car or my pickup truck. My dad had us boys brainwashed that we check that oil every morning before we start the car. Every day. Well, I don't do that so much anymore. I do check it once in a while though. The cars are getting a little long in the tooth, a little old. So I do check it once in a while, but nothing like the way I was trained when I was a child. I would imagine if my dad was still alive, he'd still check his oil every day. If he could, I mean, golly, the guy would be about 12 years old now. Maybe he wouldn't be checking his oil. I don't miss not having cruise control on my vehicles or intermittent wipers, or where you press a button and some window wash solution comes out and your wipers wash your windshield for you as you're driving down the road. I don't miss not having that stuff. That was always a pain in the... Yep. I remember my mom getting out of her car, spitting on a Kleenex and trying to make it so she could see out of the window as we were driving against the sun, usually coming home from Denver. I don't miss those heavy old televisions. We're just a few years away from everyone had those. Remember the heavy TVs? Even the 19-inchers weighed 60 pounds. They were heavy. You get a 21-inch or 25-inch, for heaven's sake. If you had the biggest TV in town, it might weigh 85 pounds easily. Or the black and white TVs. I don't miss having the black and white TVs. I like color. Or I don't miss only having 3 channels. and no recording device. You know, when VCRs came out, that was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but now we do DVR, unless you just do streaming. Or I don't miss only having one TV in the house. We have 5 TVs in this house, and I think we cut it back a couple. We have 3 bedrooms with TVs, and that's not every bedroom in the house. We have a TV in the family room, and that's my TV because I've got special sound situations wired up for it. And then there's a TV down in, well, it used to be in the family room downstairs, but my wife has rearranged the whole basement, and now it's where the ping pong table used to sit. She made it a little cozier in a smaller area, and that's okay. She's the one that sits down there and watches. My wife goes from room to room. She travels. In the morning, I always come to my office and do my thing, but she has a little study in our bedroom. She also has that little area now for the TV downstairs, or she hangs out in another bedroom upstairs. So she never spends more than a week in one area where she hangs out during the mornings. Here's another one, telephones. I don't miss payphones at all. I don't miss those suckers a little bit. In fact, I never liked them when that was the only way you could make a call if you weren't at home. I just never really much liked them. They were dirty, they were cold. The phone book never had what you were looking for because people were tearing pages out of the phone book. I don't miss not having caller ID. I like to know who's calling me. I don't miss not having voicemail. Golly, either the phone was busy when you called somebody, or it just rang and it rang and it rang. You could stay there for an hour letting the phone ring. It wouldn't go to voicemail, or even an old-fashioned answer machine. Remember those things? I thought that was a great thing, an answer machine. We had one that had 2 different things. Press 1 if you want to talk to Jim. Press 2 if you want to talk to Kim. Kind of silly, but we used it. No FaceTime. We had a grandkid that had a birthday yesterday, and we FaceTimed him, talked to him for 5 minutes, you know. He saw us, we saw him, almost as good as being there with him. Not quite, but better than just a voice on the phone. There's a place for FaceTime. Went to the World's Fair in 1962 or 4 or something, the one in Seattle, and I remember the telephone of the future was, you know, you talk to somebody and you see them on the TV also. Well, it's not quite like that. One more thing I miss here is long distance rates. I mean, I don't miss that. I do not miss long distance rates. I don't care. The $50 I pay for my phone has everything I need for a month's worth of whatever. Now, I could go with another carrier and probably get it for $25 a month, but I'm happy with my carrier. They have great benefits and good reception. I mean, sometimes in the middle of Kansas, it'll kind of drop off a little, but not much. Everywhere I go, pretty much, I have a signal. What else do I not miss from the old days, from the good old days? How about, you know, string trimmers, weed eaters, whatever you call them? Before then, they had a clipper, and you had to squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it, and it kind of clipped 3 or 4 little pieces of grass at a time. Take forever just to clip around your porch. I don't miss those at all. I don't miss hand saws or Yankee drills. A Yankee drill is a little hand drill, looks like an egg beater, old-fashioned egg beater, or any of that stuff that was pre-power tool. The only power tool I remember my dad having when I was very young was a jigsaw. And then, you know, we started getting power tools. Well, I don't even miss those. I want those cordless drills and cordless saws and whatever. That's better. One more thing with vehicles. I do not miss having to lock my hubs on my 4-wheel drive truck. It used to be in the old days, if you want to put it in 4-wheel drive, you go outside of the car up to the wheel, the front wheel, and you turn this little knob thing and lock it into 4-wheel drive. You had to do that on the left front and the right front. If it's like winter and stuff, I used to run with the hubs in, but then I'd put it in 4-wheel gear up in the cab of the truck. Now you just push a button and a light flashes for about 2 seconds and you're locked in. It's far superior. It was a pain, but it's the only thing we knew. I do not miss having to go out there and lock my hubs. As great as the good old days were, I don't miss some of that stuff. So even though it's a short list, and those things are really not important anyway, some technology brought us to this point with cars and TVs and phones and tools, But there are some things I do miss. I had a whole podcast once about things I miss about the good old days, and I'm trying to cover some that I didn't talk about, or maybe I did. I don't know. I didn't go back and try to find that and listen to it. One thing I really miss is soda pop in glass bottles. The only way I see it is Mexican Coke. It's a specialty item, and I never buy it. I just buy the aluminum can. And there's a definite difference between a glass bottle and an aluminum can. Glass is superior. No mistake about it. But, then we have to recycle the bottles, and take them back to the store for a nickel or something. You have to pay the nickel when you buy it. Coke used to cost a nickel, but the bottle cost a nickel. But if you're, a good boy and not throw the bottle outside the car window as you're driving down the road, well then, you get your nickel back. I also miss people in stores counting my change back to me and thanking me for their business. Today, they don't even know. The register tells them, and if you give them $1.23 sale, if there's any such thing as that anymore, if you give them 5 1/4, they get so confused they don't even know what's going on. Sad state of affairs, I know. I miss kids playing outside, riding their bikes, sandlot, baseball, stuff like that. I see some of that in the little town I live close to, but you just don't see it when you enter the suburbs and the city. I mean, you barely see it. Unless it's organized sports or something, you just don't see it. Up in the little town that I live outside of, though, you'll see kids riding their bikes around and stuff like that. One thing I really miss a whole lot. You can go anywhere back in the good old days and not hear the F-bomb. You could watch TV in the good old days and not hear the F-bomb. One thing about TV that I don't miss about the old days is we had 3 channels, actually 4. ABC, CBS, NBC. There was a little local channel. I guess we had 5, and a public television channel. We had 5, but I think at one time when I was younger we had 3. So now I have literally thousands if you count all those streaming channels and stuff. It's more than I'll ever use, but once in a while if I'm looking for something I can find it on some kind of different type of app on my Roku. But today's shows, all of them use the F-bomb. Very few of them don't. I know I talk about this before, and it's a huge point of contention with me, and it makes me angry to think that they force stuff like that on us. But like a friend of mine told me the other day, she can walk outside to get the mail and hear it, and she lives in a nice neighborhood of town. So what do? It's like all of a sudden that F-bomb is an important part of the English language. I imagine if you looked it up on the internet, on Webster's dictionary, you could find that word there. It's different, I guess, today than it was. The good old days were a time when faith, family, and friendship were important. The good old days were much, much better in many, many ways. I don't know when my grandchildren reach their golden years how they'll look at their good old days. I hope they don't look at it with a preface of the F-bomb. Maybe I'm sounding old, or maybe I'm just being practical. Thank you for riding along today. I always appreciate it, and I hope you share this podcast with someone you care for. Always be kind. Is there any other way? I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.